Trade finance gap in SMEs is a rising issue which we see in most of the ASEAN economies and, so to say, in Singapore. Today, we are going to listen to some of these SMEs and alternative financing groups and probably industry experts come together to give their experiences on digitization and how the authentication of these frameworks has helped them to get better financed, better run organizations out there.
So in Southeast Asia, most businesses actually are SMEs, and most employment is also created by SMEs. But based on research by World Bank and IFC and a lot of data that we've come across, there's about a $320 billion financing gap that SMEs face.
It's very simple. When it comes to trade finance, it's access to trade finance that is the main problem for SMEs and trade financiers.
Commodity financing that we are in, I think one of the issues is raising finance.
Well, in Singapore, the SMEs usually are who are in the trading sector. They face problems in getting effective and timely trade finance these days from banks.
The way that the vast majority of trade is conducted today relies on point-to-point communication between a host of different counterparties. Now, this is time-consuming. It involves the exchange of a ton of physical documents, and it also requires each business counterparty that is part of a transaction to be responsible for reconciling and maintaining their own audit trail. Now, digitizing can solve all of those problems.
Essentially, what ends up happening is that banks are comfortable funding the larger of the SMEs, while a lot of the middle or smaller SMEs don't get the funding that they need.
Especially in Singapore, I understand a lot of SMEs have this high volume, low margin kind of business where they are very sensitive to cost.
Over the past 10 years, banks have channeled most of their funding capacity towards large corporates or large entities, basis their balance sheet. So if you're a small trader trying to access trade financing, you really don't have a chance.
And one of the challenges that the trade finance space has had is that of trust, is that of being able to rely on documentation, is knowing whether something is getting double financed, is being able to avoid forgery and whatnot, right?
One of the reasons that banks and financiers have become less comfortable extending support to specific sectors of the economy can be attributed to sheer lack of visibility into the transaction. So not being able to track the progress of each transaction, not being able to get real-time updates as part of their own due diligence processes has resulted in a tremendous trade financing gap, and specifically targeted at the SMEs because there's a lot less visibility that's being provided by them, not by their own choice, but because of potentially the lack of resources to do that.
So you have banks lending in like 20 basis points or 1% to majors, all the way to the SMEs having to go to alternative financiers.
Because banks have become very, very strict in terms of their processes, in terms of their compliance. Also, due to the whole issues going on in the commodity trading sector, a lot of banks are now very hesitant to finance commodity traders.
So if you're a SME that pays 24% interest per year, and then you're waiting for the bank to process your documents for 20 days, that's 20 days of interest that you have to pay. That's your margin.
So with the whole scenario, especially also COVID, the SME trade sector is facing issues in getting the right trade finance, and also the way the trade finance are processed timely by the banks currently, and with all the compliance checks. So it is a little bit of a challenging environment.
So that makes it nearly impossible for SMEs to compete in normal trade unless they do extremely risky trades, and that's usually a recipe for disaster.
And that just shouldn't be the case.
A public-private partnership organized between IMDA, ESG, which is Enterprise Singapore, and dltledgers is supporting these SMEs to digitize.
Well, to get to the new age, because we are a medium-sized financier, we've been lucky enough to access financing, even though it is quite expensive. So we had to do our best and increase our efficiencies in order to cut down our processing time.
We started our journey of digitalization a few years back, which definitely continued during this phase. A partnership with dltledgers was right steps. In fact, we all started even before pandemic, and it has definitely helped us during this period as well.
We've signed up with dltledgers on getting our contracts and our documentation and everything digitized, and we're really looking forward to an age where everything in terms of trade finance and financing will be more digital than what it is now, because it's too paper intensive and too medieval, if I could say so.
Well, we are looking at the technical aspects a lot, because what we are trying to do here is get all the stakeholders on board and see how the world that is really already quite small because of the technology can be made even smaller, where everybody can be brought into a virtual secure room, and then within the room the exchange of documents and information is done in a secure way and very, very quickly, almost instantly.
I don't think there could have been any better time than this for this public-private partnership to come together and support the industry. We all know why Singapore is famous for the trade and trade finance support that it provides. A platform like this, which provides transparency at the same time the liquidity for the trade, automatically helps the industry.
So what we have done is we try to automate the processes internally and also in terms of communication with our external trading partners.
So it wasn't just the effort with us, because we understand for this to work and be useful for SMEs such as us means that the entire network was created to use it. Because if we say, yeah, we're fine, we can digitize our documents, the other side doesn't accept it and they want to see papers with stamps on it, we have to send them papers with stamps on it, right? So we appreciated that all this immense effort that was actually put this system together. And I understand IMDA has provided immense financial support for this to happen. And I think it was an exceptional way to get companies like us to be more competitive, rather than doing a little patchwork, say here's a bit of funding, we cover 1 or 2 trades, and then next year you're back to being non-competitive.
Well, we are very happy and we are very glad that IMDA and dltledgers with this public-private partnership has come into effect, and it is really the right step forward for the trade sector, and especially for Singapore to be like a leader, like a captain in digitizing trade finance, because Singapore is the trade finance capital of the world, if I would say, especially in commodity finance. So with this public-private partnership and digitization push, I think it will be a good future, and we are very happy to be a part of it.
Enterprise Singapore, IMDA has come together to the aid of these SMEs, and dltledgers is a digitization platform which is supporting the processes which is discussed by our customers who spoke a while back.
And I understand I should even thank IMDA, who have been helping in the background. They have helped us look at something that is potentially very helpful to us.
I have to say they were quite intelligent, rather than we see what happened in other countries where they're just signing checks which tend to be lopsided and going towards benefiting larger traders and larger banks. This has been, in my opinion, a bottom-up approach. We would have a much greater and much longer-term benefit.
The IMDA's grants and help to help the SME to take the first step and get experience in this space, I think is helpful.
dltledgers, which basically, rather than us sending documents, which you'll be surprised how much DHL and courier happens in this day and age for like people stamping actual papers. So we are gradually replacing that manual processing of documents with a fully electronic solution, and we cut our processing time from 15 days to about 2. So that for us is money. That means that we're actually being able to double the number of trades that we do because we can do more trades at a smaller margin.
They will help SMEs improve their operations, reduce their costs in the long term, but also have better access to finance. And the right access to finance can really help SMEs to grow and not be restricted and restrained by bigger counterparties that they work with and delayed payments and things like that. So we're really hopeful that this would be great for SMEs, for trade in the region, but also for trade financing.
When you bring transparency, you can attract the financiers which are financial institutions like banks, and you can also attract the financiers which are alternate financiers like funds also coming into the platform. So effectively building transparency allows the alternate financial option to become open up for the organizations, which is perfect solutions for us.
It provides a good platform for all the parties in the trading cycle to get updated on the developments of the trade. So, and then information exchange has been very prompt on the platform, and the various parties, including our bankers, got updated.
Shorter processing times means better margins, means more trades. Simple as that. I mean, we're traders of commodities. We don't have a brand. We have our reliability as a supplier and speed of delivery. And if we cut down one of those factors, we become competitive.
Well, the benefit, of course, is the savings in terms of time and consequently the savings in terms of cost. As I said, all the SMEs are very cost sensitive, and in our business it is more pronounced because the deliveries have to happen within certain times and very stringent time frames, and we expect the DLT system to help us achieve that.
Like, platforms like dltledgers also give us opportunities to tap into alternative trade finance, which is quite exciting, because then we as SME traders can look at, okay, apart from a bank, who else can finance our trades? And if there are financing opportunities available at a competitive cost, we might take it, and dltledgers will definitely, with their platform, allow us to do that.
So yeah, that's how we're trying to serve the market. We're not here to compete with banks. We're here to serve a need that they weren't fulfilling, and doing it in a way that can be sustainable and profitable for us, but also helping SMEs and in turn the economy.
One of the reasons that banks and financiers have become less comfortable extending support to specific sectors of the economy can be attributed to sheer lack of visibility into the transaction. So not being able to track the progress of each transaction, not being able to get real-time updates as part of their own due diligence processes has resulted in a tremendous trade financing gap, and specifically targeted at the SMEs, because there's a lot less visibility that's being provided by them, not by their own choice, but because of potentially the lack of resources to do that.
Yeah, certainly. I think going forward, I think a non-bank source of financing will be very important as a replacement for the more usual form of banking finance, as most banks have pulled out from this area of financing.
And one of the challenges that the trade finance space has had is that of trust, is that of being able to rely on documentation, is knowing whether something is getting double financed, is being able to avoid forgery and whatnot, right? So for us, having a partner like that, being able to help us in being more comfortable and confident about extending finance, but also helping SMEs digitize, which definitely is great for them because it helps them be more efficient and in tune with the times. But I think the best benefit is that it makes it easy for them to access financing.
Well, adoption journey has been extremely smooth. we've worked very closely with the team of dltledgers on customizing our adoption process. They've been extremely receptive. They've been extremely good to answer our needs and our questions, and it's been extremely easy and fast. I would say now, I think from this time they've started to now, the whole platform is so mature that if an SME trader wants to just log in, tap into the system, it's a ready-to-made product. So in the whole process, the whole adoption has been extremely smooth, and the team is extremely receptive. Team is extremely fast to do the changes, and I think for an SME to adapt to the system is quite seamless.
SME organizations need a very simplistic UX-based kind of a framework for them to really adopt into the solution. With the help of Enterprise Singapore, we were able to give a touchless, a more seamless kind of UX so that these SMEs can come in and digitize their frameworks. This is what is being delivered across to the Singapore SMEs for fast adoption in an advanced digitization adoption program by IMDA.
dltledger was relatively easy to log on to. We could integrate it with our existing SAP S/4HANA ERP solution, and the integration made it even more easier for us with the trades being available on the platform. It was then about executing it and then sending it through the platform to our financial institutions.
And we are not very tech savvy, but we are very grateful to the DLT team, because I can understand that I'm from a finance background, and things that I understand very easily, if I'm talking to someone and that guy does not understand, to have the patience to go through it very slowly till the user understands it is not so easy for you tech savvy guys that understand the DLC system so easily. And why is the customer asking so many silly questions? Some of the questions might sound very silly to you, but for the user it may be very critical to understand, comprehend, and put it into action so that the final outcome is achieved. That is very critical. So I'm really thankful to the DLT team for this opportunity to explore this.
Training was relatively easy because it's a web-based solution, so we can access it from anywhere. And the response that we have seen from financial institutions receiving the trade through the platform has also been good.
You have heard of all these SMEs who have digitized and their experiences in terms of trade financing and how they have progressed, within the alternative financing and banks in Singapore.
Well, initially it wasn't just the support, it was the effort which was done by the team, because this is not just one company presenting a product, it's a company creating a new network.
You can get digitized and get going in terms of your trade finance requirements.